after going through about 500 different temperature cycles, and you can see it did not open. This is after it opened up and released the material. So something like this can have a huge health implication to us, where you can use the current existing pesticides, but be more safe to us and to the environment. And actually this same technology is used for drug delivery, and it can be used to deliver warfare agents. It can be used to deliver different material depending on how you want to engineer this shell. And by the way, this is actually a product out in the market. Now, I'm going to go into energy. Again, back to the battery ideas. Now, this is actually from Nile University. This is about a 1.5 years old. And what you can see, what they did is that they used carbon nanotubes, which are, as I said, are highly conductive. They are almost ballistic conductors or superconductors. They used manganese oxide, which has a very high capacity to take charges, but it is a very bad conductor. So using this, they built carbon nanotubes, covered them with magnesium oxide, so they have a very high capacitor, a very good conductor, put them on gold plates, and this is actually a battery that has the capacity to charge and discharge, and if 1/10 of the normal time taken to charge a battery, it can take up to 100 times more energy in a battery than you can know. This is why some computers nowadays are actually able to stay up to 8 hours of operation because similar technologies. Another area of energy is solar energy, of course. A lot of you know that solar energy is a problem because it is the promise and it is a problem. The promise because it's the promise of a clean energy, supposedly will be cheap. The problem because we are not able to make it cheap enough to compete with current electricity. What is really the problem? We have had materials that are able to generate very efficiently, change light into electricity. But the problem is in capturing this changed electricity, this charge, to capture it before it recombines again. So, what happens is you got a dye or a molecule that takes energy from the light, separates into an electron and a hole, a positive and a negative charge. Okay, these are your two charges. The issue is, in solar cells, that we need to be able to capture these two charges very fast and push them away from each other and give them to the electrodes before they recombine. If they recombine, we lost the energy. So this action of separating them is fine. We have material that can do this at 100% efficiency. The problem is to get them far away from each other so that they do not recombine again. This is where the problem of solar energy at this moment exists. Now, nanotechnology is promising a way to do this because of our ability to use new materials who are very highly conductive, and at the same time our ability to actually control exactly where we put them. And this is what you see here. This is one of the ideas that has been put forward and it's actually been tested right now, is using different types of nanotubes. Nanotubes, by the way, can be silicon nanotubes, can be titanium dioxide nanotubes, can be germanium nanotubes, can be any material. There's a lot of different materials of nanotubes. It's not just carbon nanotubes. Okay? So these are nanotubes put down here. This is a film of material that actually absorbs the light and changes into carrier. This is other carbon nanotubes up there, or tubes up there to capture the electrons, and these are going to capture the electrons and deliver them to the electrode. Now this has been in testing, and we already see a tenfold increase in efficiency, but it's not yet stable enough to go into production. Another thing that has been done, what you see here is one single filament. This filament is about 15 nanometer from this edge to this edge. This whole filament is actually a complete solar cell by itself. These different layers are actually, I think this was silicon oxide, silicon, germanium oxide, and then a conductive material in the middle. And each one of this is a single solar cell. The efficiency is not that high, but the size is very small, which means that you can put 10 billion of these on your hand. So even if they have 1% efficiency, 10 billion of them on a surface is going to generate a lot of electricity. There are still issues with this. We are unable to connect them very efficiently to the surface. But in principle, this is one way to go. Another application, which is the environment, which actually comes from an automotive company, which is Mazda in this case. One of the things that they have to care about is the environmental effect of their cars. So there are three-way catalysts that are actually in the car, in the exhaust, looking at taking different material from the exhaust and breaking carbon dioxide. Now what they have done is by changing the size of their catalyst from over 10 to 20 nanometer in size to under 5 nanometer in size and loading it on a bigger particles which are 100 nanometer in size, they are able to actually break it. The problem was under the temperature, existing temperature at the gas, as the gas going out, that the temperature here made actually the small catalyst unit to combine it, to aggregate and become into a bigger catalyst, and this is not efficient. We need to keep it small. So using nanotechnology to actually break these into smaller areas and maintain them as smaller areas was able to make them being able to actually keep the efficiency of the three-way catalyst very significantly high. So I've talked about this. One of the areas, as we said, we've talked about water, we've talked about agriculture, we've talked about energy, given examples of all of them. And I'm going to give you one example in medical application. But I'm just not going to show the pictures because I didn't find the pictures in my computer, unfortunately. What is the area in medical application that in a country like Egypt we have a problem with? If you go to Alexandria or if you go to Cairo, you have very well-equipped medical centers. Okay? But the problem is the areas that are outside the big cities. This is where the biggest problem is. We are unable to deliver enough health care to these people. Nanotechnology is offering a way to do this. There's something called the handheld analysis technique using something called a lab on a chip. This is a very small chip that is disposable, costs less than $3 or $4 each. And you can engineer this chip to detect certain diseases. This has been already done with allergies. Now, allergies are not a big problem in Egypt, are not very important or a life-threatening issue we have. We're looking at hepatitis C, for example. The advantage of this is that such a lab on a chip, such a small chip that is disposable, does not need the doctor to actually take a sample, does not need the doctor to actually analyze the result. It will write on the handheld machine telling you, yes, you have this or you don't have it. Now, any حكيم أو داية في القرى هتقدر تقرأ إيه اللي مكتوب. It's very simple. You don't need an educated person to be able to use it. It is very similar to the sugar, the insulin, sugar. How do you measure the sugar? It's exactly the same. Diabetes issues. It's very similar to it. Okay, but it is disposable. And it can be detected, used to detect specific types of disease, whether it is hepatitis C, whether it is AIDS, whatever you name it. Now, this is a technology that the focus is on AIDS, the focus is in the West, the focus is on allergies, the focus is on things that is important to them. What we need to be working on is on this lab on a chip, we need to be developing that to solve our own problems, which is, for example, hepatitis C. Now, nanotechnology areas for the Middle East, these are the areas that I think the industry needs to be pushing forward. I'm not going to go through the selection criteria, but these are the three areas, the three industries, the oil and gas, the construction industry, and the textile industry. And I'm going to show you examples in construction and textile. Oil and gas is just way too big to talk about. In construction industry, this is actually a paint that is used on this. This is actually a church in Rome that was built in 2002, and until today, as you can see, it's extremely clean. It's using this paint. This paint has self-cleaning properties, and as you can see, as the water is coming down, it takes all the dirt and goes down. So the one time, here in Alexandria, I don't have a problem with rain. It rains quite frequently. But in Cairo, we only have 1 day of rain each year. So that one day, if such a material is used on the houses, will be زي حماية العيد كده. It will clean the entire city. One thing that is more important, as you can see here, this is again another building, and this is looking at the change in the color over 80 months.